Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is the Spegmeister, and welcome to part 8 of my Halo Anniversary Legendary walkthrough.
Which means that any organism with sufficient mass and cognitive capability is a potential vector. Is something wrong?
No, nothing.
Splendid, shall we? Unfortunately, my usefulness to this particular endeavor has come to an end. Protocol does not allow units with my classification to perform a task as important as the reunification of the index with the core. That final step is reserved for you, Reclaimer. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, really?
Cortana.
I've spent the last 12 hours cooped up in here watching you toady about, helping that thing get set to slit our throats.
Hold on now. He's a friend.
Oh, I didn't realize. He's your pal, is he? Your chum? Do you have any idea what that bastard almost made you do?
Yes. Activate Halo's defenses and destroy the flood. Which is why we brought the index to the control center.
You mean this?
A construct in the core? That is absolutely unacceptable.
Sod off!
What impertinence! I shall purge you at once!
You sure that's a good idea?
How dare you? I'll...
Do what? I have the index. You can just float and sputter.
Enough! The flood is spreading. If we activate Halo's defenses, we can wipe them out.
You have no idea how this ring works, do you? Why the Forerunners built it? Halo doesn't kill Flood. It kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. We're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't believe me? Ask him.
Is it true?
More or less. Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years. But once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life. Or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the flood. But you already knew that. I mean, how could you?
Left out that little detail, did he?
We have followed outbreak containment procedure to the letter. You were with me each step of the way as we managed this crisis.
Chief, I'm picking up movement.
Why would you hesitate to do what you've already done?
We need to go right now.
Last time you asked me, if it were my choice, would I do it? Having had considerable time to ponder your query, my answer has not changed. There is no choice. We must activate the ring.
Get us out of here.
If you are unwilling to help, I will simply find another. Still, I must have the index. Give your construct to me, or I will be forced to take her from you.
That's not going to happen.
So be it. Save his head. Dispose of the rest.
Look out!
As soon as you exit the cutscene, go ahead and get behind one of these glass panes right away. Be careful not to stand too close to the glass because the sentinels can still hit you, even if it doesn't look like they can shoot through the glass.
We can't let the monitor activate Halo. We have to stop him. We have to destroy Halo. According to my analysis of the available data, I believe the best course of action is somewhat risky. An explosion of sufficient size will help destabilize the ring, and will cut through a number of primary systems. We need to trigger a detonation on a large scale, however. A starship's fusion reactors going critical would do the job. I'm going to search what's left of the Covenant battlement to see if I can locate the Pillar of Autumn's crash site. If the ship's fusion reactors are still relatively intact, we can use them to destroy Halo.
So hopefully if you land a well-placed grenade down the hallway, then the Sentinels will focus most of their attention against the elites. Otherwise, if you're not able to kill those grunts quickly enough, they'll wipe out the Sentinels right away, making your job quite a bit more difficult. When you come up on this blast door, go ahead and get behind the shield and check a couple of plasma grenades on the other side in this corner. Once those two elites are down, then go ahead and mop up the grunts and jackals right away.
I haven't located the crash site yet, and we need to buy some time in case the Monitor or his Sentinels find a way to activate Halo's final weapon without the index. The machinery in these cannons are Halo's primary fire rates. They consist of 3 phase pulse generators that amplify Halo's signal and allow it to fire deep into space. The power levels are enormous. I can't even begin to calculate the pulse's range. So, if we damage or destroy these generators, the Monitor will need to repair them before Halo can be used. That should buy us some time. I'm marking the location of the nearest pulse generator with a nav point. We need to move in and neutralize the device.
Now for this first engagement, as you're going down the ramp, just try to use the cover well to your advantage. You can actually peek through this little hole between the debris and the structure itself to get a shot on these guys. For the time being, what I'm going to do is drop the shotgun for a needler, and this is going to be a really useful weapon for clearing out the Covenant on the control room itself as you're going down. Most of the enemies you can take out towards the top as you're standing on this platform. Just try to use the lip to your advantage so that you can duck behind cover if you take too much damage from these guys. The next group of enemies you'll find down here in this corner. Sometimes you can stick one, if not both, of the elites that are down below. Just take this part kind of slow if you're gonna deal with enemies this way. And as you can see, this one elite is giving me a little bit more trouble than what he's worth. But once you deal with that group, then you can go ahead and go back for the shotgun. And right now I'm going to use the opportunity to go pick up some other weapons and replenish on ammo and health. So if you go up the center structure where we exited the control room, you'll find a handful of human weapons up at the top, including a sniper rifle, a pistol, and then there's some shotgun ammo and health. And some frag grenades, I believe, as well. So what I'm going to do is drop the shotgun down below if possible. And then grab the sniper rifle. You're not given a whole lot of ammo for the sniper, but it can be fairly useful for this part. Right here, I'm just going to demonstrate that you can go down the tower the normal way, but a fairly easy shortcut is to just ride down these slopes. Just be careful not to go down at the wrong angle or jump down before you hit the slope, as you will take some damage once you hit the bottom. Sometimes that can even kill you if you're really unlucky. Coming up on this section, there's going to be an elite that hops in a Wraith, but we're going to ignore that vehicle for the time being.
Commandeer one of those mansions. We'll need it to reach the pulse generator in time.
What you want to do is make your way to the left and try to hang out on this side and kill most of the infantry first. Focus on the grunts and jackals first. And don't worry about the Wraith, because the center beam here will protect you from its mortars. Once it looks clear at the bottom, go ahead and come back up for the rocket launcher, and you'll find that right next to these combat forms. And then once the Wraith is down, then you can go ahead and ditch the shotgun or the rocket launcher. You can also ditch the pistol for your shotgun as well at this point.
Good. Let's get moving. The nav point marks our target.
When you come up here, you'll just have one elite and two grunts. And these enemies don't have any power weapons, so they should go down fairly easily.
That's the pulse generator. The center core is the signal amplifier. That's what we need to shut down. We need to interrupt the pulse generator's energy stream. I've adjusted your shield system so that it will deliver an EMP burst to disrupt the generator, but you'll need to walk into the beam to trigger it. The EMP blast should neutralize the generator, but it will also drain your shields and leave you vulnerable until they recharge. Objective accomplished. The pulse generator has overloaded. Scanning. The generator's central core is offline. Well done.
As soon as that generator is destroyed, a bunch of sentinels will come into the room and engage you. But if you're speedrunning this level, you will not have to deal with these guys. It's actually pretty easy to run past them.
The second pulse generator is located in the adjacent canyon. Move out and I'll mark the target with a nav point when we get closer.
As you come down to this natural bridge, be careful for the enemies that spawn through these two opposing doors. The grunts, I think only one of the grunts that comes through each of those doors, or at least one of those doors, will have a will not have a fuel rod cannon, I think. Or no, excuse me. One of the grunts won't have a fuel rod cannon. The rest should have one though. As long as you're moving around though, they're not too bad.
Head through that door. That's the way to the next canyon.
Go ahead and kill this grunt and then shoot out the glass here. And you'll want to try to kill most of the enemies in the center of this room from this spot right here. Don't be afraid to use your plasma grenades for this part. Once you've cleared out the center of this room, then it's quite a bit easier to move up on these guys on the opposing side of the room. Just like the center of the room, there's just two elites that are waiting on the outer perimeter. Down below, as you exit this room, there's 3 jackals waiting for you. When you're about a third of the way into this hallway, go ahead and back up as these enemies spawn in. If you want to play a little bit more aggressively, you can try to chuck a couple of grenades down there and see if you can get a cluster kill. If you can, if you're struggling with taking him out by any other means, you can try to close the distance with the shotgun and finish off the elites. On this next engagement, you'll have the Flood attacking the elites. Go ahead and let the Flood pass on by first. And then what you'll want to do is try to stick one of the elites in this pack. As soon as those elites are dead, go ahead and back off and wait for the next group of enemies to approach you. Here you'll just have some jackals as well as a gold elite to deal with here. There's a couple of health kits in this corner, so if you need to grab one, don't be afraid to do so. And then what you'll want to do is hop up onto one of these upper platforms and see if you can get the drop on these enemies down below. After you kill enough enemies, some Flood will spawn in through this other door that I'm currently looking at. As you come out to the first bridge section, these jackals will be focused on the Flood that are on the opposing bridge. But if you happen to open fire, they'll turn their attention to you, of course. As you're on this bridge, be careful, there's one gold elite that's waiting further down. So in case the Flood don't kill him, you'll have to deal with him. And of course, these combat forms, as you're making your way across the bridge, they'll hop across to try and meet the Covenant, or they'll meet you. Right here, this is one of the tougher parts of the mission. So the way I like to handle this is to chuck a grenade down that left hallway, and then also do the same on this right hallway. Now that one didn't work out as well as I hoped it would. But what you'll have is all these combat forms that'll funnel in now from the middle and the right. And a number of them will have shotguns. So just try to take this part slowly. Retreat into this hallway if you have to. Up here you'll have some more enemies, but as long as you don't get their attention, you can get a grenade up there and kill them right away. And then you'll have some more enemies on the other side of the room as well once you get their attention. There's usually just 4 combat forms that are on the right as well as on the left. In this next hallway, there will be a couple of elites, and this is going to be a short skirmish between the elites and the combat forms. You'll want to hang back and let them fight out for as long as it goes. Usually the Flood will win this because there's a rocket launcher enemy that'll come down the hallway. And there he is, so be careful when dealing with him. Try to get his attention, and then chuck a grenade right before he gets to the corner, and that'll kill him. And I think I might come back for that rocket launcher later, but I won't need it for this next part. In this room, you'll have a few combat forms that'll meet you right away at this door, as well as some carrier forms backing him up. I would recommend killing all these little guys before you move into the room any further. Go ahead and chuck a grenade in there. There's always going to be one combat form waiting in there for you. And then as soon as you trigger the next wave, go ahead and chuck another grenade in there to kill off the next batch. Once you get their attention, just go ahead, back off away from the center and kill off these little infection forms. Fortunately, the combat forms at this point are pretty easy to deal with on the other side. They only have pistols to work with. And then there's also one more combat form, but he's off to the left-hand side as you enter this room. And this guy you can tackle multiple ways, but any which way works pretty well, honestly. If you need to pick up more shotgun ammo, this guy will have a decent amount. And once you do that, go ahead and drop the shotgun close by this exit. And I'm going to use this opportunity to go back and get the rocket launcher. When you come up on this next bridge section, go ahead and drop the pistol for the time being, and take out all these flood that are close by. Also, keep an eye on the banshees for this part as well. Sometimes they'll focus their attention on you, other times they may target the flood. Then once you deal with the two banshees, you can go ahead and pick up the pistol that you drop in the hallway, and then we'll move up on clean up the flood that are left on the bridge. Now this is where the pistol comes in really useful. There's going to be some combat forms on the bridge that have rocket launchers, and these guys are easier to deal with if you have the pistol on hand. Otherwise, you can try to use a rocket launcher yourself, or use your grenades if you have any on hand. As you make your way across, you'll just have these infection forms left to deal with. And I would go back and pick up the rocket launchers that these guys drop for you. As you make your way into this part, just wrap around on this left-hand side, wait for the carrier forms to get a little bit distance, and then swap out to the rocket launcher and try to target these guys further into the room. You'll have some combat forms that'll come from the middle, so be aware of them. These guys you can just ignore if you really don't care to kill them. This part, there's gonna be all these human combat forms, and they all don't have weapons. So just have your shotgun ready to deal with them. When you come out to this bomb section, try to target the ghost that's immediately to your right. Be careful for the wraith that also fires on your position, as well as the banshee.
Okay, let's take care of the next portion.
Once it looks clear, go ahead and grab this ghost. For this part, the grunts that are all on the ground will hop in the unoccupied turrets if you happen to kill the gunner in them. So that can make killing the enemies on this part a lot easier. And then you're just left with any grunts or any jackals or elites on the ground. Keep strafing left to right to avoid the wraith's mortars too. And then as for this wraith, you can try hop out, use the rocket launcher against it. The safer method, I would say, is sticking to the ghost and just keep strafing left to right. When you destroy the wraith, then go ahead and come down here and you'll find a stockpile of ammunition off in this corner, as well as some health kits on the other side. When you get down here, go ahead and drop the shotgun for a pistol, and then hop back in the ghost. When you get to this section, try to wait for the Banshee to hone in on you. Have your rocket launcher out and then fire away. There's also one more Banshee that'll be in the air on this part. So be careful for him. Otherwise, come over to this right side after you destroy the first Banshee and take out the two hunters waiting here for you. Here's the second Banshee. And then in this back corner, you'll have one Wraith to deal with. And I would try to target him as soon as you destroy the Banshees and kill the Hunters. Because this guy can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Just like the other Wraith, you can try to use your rockets on this guy, but he likes to strafe quite a bit himself. So I would just stick to the Ghost and keep moving around. Once he's dead, then you can move up on these enemies that are up on this upper rock platform. And then you can pick up one of the Needlers and try to take out these elites down below. Once you kill all these enemies, then go ahead and try to look around for the pistol that you dropped earlier, if you happen to do so. It's not entirely necessary to grab the pistol, but I find it a lot easier to use against the Hunters to take him out real quickly. Otherwise, you can use the shotgun or the rocket launcher. And then you can grab the Banshee after you grab your weapons. Try to keep your distance as you climb up to the top because there's going to be a whole bunch of enemies on this center platform, including some grunts with fuel rod cannons. Don't be afraid to keep your distance against these enemies, especially since they have pretty mean weapons. And on top of that, you'll just have one gold elite to deal with, but he's not too bad of a threat if you can use your Banshee Bomb against him. And then up by this platform, you'll have one more fuel rod grunt to deal with, as well as an elite and a jackal. Coming up is one of my least favorite parts of the mission. So what you want to do here is hang out by this doorway and wait for the sentinels to enter into the fight. Eventually they'll all get destroyed, but you really want to be careful against these combat forms because one or two of them will have a rocket launcher out. So don't play it super aggressively. And I'm being really cautious because I'm still nervous that there's one more combat form in the room, but I think I got them all. Once all the combat forms are dead, you'll have a bunch of infection forms on the other side that spawn in. So grab a plasma weapon to deal with them real quick. Once they're all down, then you can go ahead and pick up your rocket launcher. Look for any ammo for it before you go ahead and disable the power node. So here in this corner were the rocket launchers. As soon as you deactivate it, go ahead and chuck a couple of grenades by this doorway, have your rocket launcher out, and you'll want to take these guys out right away. Don't be afraid to use your grenades as much as you need to for this part. Again, just like entering this room, you'll have some more rocket launcher flood come into the area, so that's why I pre-naded this doorway as soon as I had the opportunity. Kind of a nerve-wracking part if you ask me.
I've located the Pillar of Autumn. She put down 1,200 kilometers upspin. Energy readings show her fusion reactors are still powered up. The systems on the Pillar of Autumn have fail-safes even I can't override without authorization from the captain. We'll need to find him, or his neural implants, to start the fusion core detonation. One target remaining. Let's take care of the final pulse generator.
So make sure to come back to the spot to grab not only a health kit, but there's also an ammo pack for the pistol. And we're going to ditch the shotgun for the remainder of the level. the pistol will actually serve a greater purpose. Now, the remaining sections on this level are going to be fairly challenging, just to give a heads up. So what you want to do for this part is to try to help the Covenant out as much as possible to win this fight by taking out all these flood forms that are about halfway up on this slope. Some of the flood will have rocket launchers, so be extremely cautious of them. So for this first initial wave, just hang out towards the top and try to deal as much damage from up here as possible. And if it looks like the Flood are gonna win the fight, then go ahead and hop out and just try to spot them if possible. But it looks like the Covenant did their job, which makes my life a little bit easier. Don't be afraid to be somewhat aggressive with the Banshee, because you're not going to hang on to it for terribly long. But once you clear out that first group, you can hop out of the Banshee and then try to take out the Flood at the bottom using only your rocket launcher and maybe even the pistol as well. Just try to use any weapons that you have to get their attention before you move too far forward. But once the area looks clear, you can go ahead and look around for any rocket launcher ammo the Flood may have dropped. And then go ahead and snatch this ghost. There's a fairly easy workaround to the last part of the mission, which involves trying to phase the ghost through this next door. But I'm going to try to show how to complete the mission without that trick, which is why I decided to pick up the pistol in the first place. So for this initial wave, just wait for the Flood to start entering through this broken door. Go ahead and chuck a grenade by those combat or those infection forms, and then back away as you shoot these combat forms that spawn in from the other side. You can try to use the occasional rocket to knock them out. But once you cross this point, you'll trigger a bunch of combat forms to spawn in from the opposing end. And these ones will have some weapons, including a rocket launcher. So this is where the pistol comes in really useful. Don't be afraid to spam the rockets for this part if you need to. It's much better to play it safe than sorry, in my opinion. Once they're clear, then you can go ahead and make your way safely to the other side. And there's a couple of health kits there if you need it. Fortunately, I didn't have to use up any since I had the pistol on hand. And I should be fairly good on ammo for at least the next engagement. And if you're tackling this part on foot, this can be a fairly difficult stretch. Okay, so as soon as you come into this area, go ahead and target the group of Flood that are to your right. And keep a good eye on the Banshee as well. Just be careful of these combat forms if they still happen to be alive at this point. Now for this part, there's going to be a whole bunch of Flood that'll attack the Covenant, so let this fight play out, trying to help out the Flood as well by taking out the turrets. Usually there's a couple of gold elites on this part, so try to help out the Flood by taking them out, or at least weakening them enough. Sometimes the Flood will return the favor and kill them for you. And then go ahead and grab one of these ghosts as soon as this part is clear and you've gathered your ammo. For this part, just try to get the Flood's attention and let the Covenant and Flood fight this battle out. You can of course deal with any enemies that try to play it somewhat aggressive against you. Once those enemies are down, go ahead and quickly come over to the stockpile to get any health and ammo. And then what you want to do is try to target these flood over here. Now all these guys will have rocket launchers. So if you have your pistol or another rocket launcher yourself, you can sit back here and try to safely take them all out. And once all these enemies are down, you can actually ditch the rocket launcher if you'd like and pick up the sniper rifle instead. Now you might think this is a little crazy. I mean, how could I ditch the rocket launcher for this part especially? But what you're going to see here is it's actually fairly decent handling this battle without the rocket launcher. So what you want to do here is trigger the flood to spawn in and let the Covenant deal with them initially. Once all the flood are dead, then what you can do is move forward and try to deal with the Covenant using the Ghost. Try to target the infantry first before handling the Wraiths. Just like all the other engagements against the Wraith, just keep moving left to right against these guys. Now, I didn't expect this to happen, but this one Wraith is playing it fairly aggressive against me. So deal with the one on the right first, since he's usually closer to you than the one that's in the back left corner. Since this guy is being so aggressive, I'm gonna have to tackle him before I can deal with any infantry in the area. And that Wraith might be doing some damage to itself because it hit against that tree at close range. Once you deal with that first Wraith, then you can try to deal with some of the infantry that are in the vicinity. Otherwise, you can try to deal with the other Wraith at long range. I would recommend for this part to deal with the Wraiths before you trigger the second wave of Covenant to spawn in. They'll make life quite a bit easier. And the reason I don't care to use the rocket launcher on these Wraiths is because they also, like a couple of the earlier Wraiths, will try to dodge your shots. Now that the Wraith is down, then we can try and move in a little bit closer using the Ghost to target the Grunts and Jackals first. And I would save the sniper to use primarily against the elites. Keep a good eye on the 2 rocks that are in the very back, because that's where the next wave of enemies will spawn from. So there you could see that one of the hunters spawn in, so that triggered the second wave. So as soon as you do that, go ahead and make your way towards the back on this elevated ridge. Be on the lookout, because there's also some invisible elites that will spawn in as well. And I can see one of them up in the distance. But I'm not gonna try to bother wasting any more sniper on him. So here you can see these are the invisible elites. They'll sometimes hang around by this rock. So sometimes you may just have to approach them with the ghost to get their attention. And there's also a gold elite that made its way to the front as well. So keep a good eye on him. You'll usually have 5 invisible elites to deal with on this part, so I think there's just one more. He might be caught on a piece of cover or something. There, I think I see him too. And that's number 5. Once the visible elites are down, then you can go ahead and try to focus on sniping the remaining elites in the area. Just be careful as you work your way with these hunters if you're on the ghost, because they can easily kill you or flip you over at this point. But if you have the pistol on hand, then they can go down fairly easily, just like before. And that'll do it for this section. At this point, you can ditch all your weapons for a plasma pistol or a plasma rifle. I like to do both because at this point we just have some sentinels to clean up. You'll just have a few sentinels waiting outside this next energy pylon. And sometimes one will get caught inside the store. These sentinels will all have shields, so they're a little bit more difficult to tackle. So just take your time with them. And then once it's clear, you can hit this final generator.
Final target neutralized. Let's get out of here.
Let's find a ride and get to the captain.
No, that'll take too long.
You have a better idea?
There's a teleportation grid that runs throughout Halo. That's how the monitor moves about so quickly. I learned how to tap into the grid when I was in the control center. Unfortunately, each jump requires a rather consequential expenditure of energy.
Something tells me I'm not gonna like this.
But I'm pretty sure I can pull it from your suit without permanently damaging your shields. Needless to say, I think we should only try this once.
Do it.
So there we have it. That's probably the most difficult mission in the campaign, in my opinion. A lot of different engagements, a wide variety of enemies, and a wide selection of weapons and vehicles are featured in this level in particular. But your biggest challenge, in my opinion, will be dealing with the wraiths as well as the rocket launcher flood. But if you can handle most of those enemies from a distance, they're not too difficult to handle, or at least they're not too overwhelming, in my opinion. So hopefully you guys found this guide to be really helpful on your legendary run. Thank you all for joining in with me on this episode. I got this one out a little bit later from my last one because I came down with a sore throat, unfortunately. So I'm hoping to finish up this guide fairly soon here. So hopefully you'll stick around for that, and I'll see you in a future guide in the hopefully in the next episode or in any of my past guides.